Hi, I'm Nick Devon, Brisbane's best music writer you haven't heard of, and welcome to Radio Friendly. This is the inaugural video for Radio Friendly, and the very first After the Hype video, specifically for Post Malone's Beerbongs and Bentleys. So I've given this a fair bit of a listen before this week as well. It wasn't just this week, but God, it was tough. Fucking hell. I've reviewed Post Malone before. I reviewed Stoney. It came out a couple years ago. I didn't like it. It was boring. A lot of the shit sounded the same. A lot of the melodies that he sings with sounds the same. And all the beats and shit. It's just your generic trap beat stuff that you can hear on Migos. You can hear on anything Lil Yachty, you know. But Post Malone has really seeped through into the psyche of the younger generation, I guess, through trap music, and has become a bit of a social media celebrity. He's a funny dude. You see him on podcasts, you see him on YouTube videos. The guy's a funny guy, but his music, man, it's just a different beast. So I gave Beerbongs and Bentleys a fair listen over the week. Opens up with Paranoid. Thank God, I was just thinking, thank God it's not the bullshit Western movie themed opening that he had with Stoney. There's no gunshots and like Good, the Bad, the Ugly shit going off in the background. It's just your generic trap song. Some minor synth chords hanging in there just underneath everything, and your generic just fucking rattling hi-hat beat behind there. There's a somber melody hanging underneath that those synth chords play, and then you've got Post's real whingy, auto-tuned voice, and that's kind of what pisses me off the most about Post Malone, is that the dude can sing. You see his videos on YouTube. He does Bob Dylan covers and shit like that. The guy can sing, but he insists on having this auto-tune just layered over his voice for no apparent reason. And that's immediately what you get out of Paranoid at the start of the album. Not much instrumentation going on here though, so it's just your generic trap beat. But then those minor synths that Post had in his previous album. So there's not a lot for Post to hide behind, and he doesn't. He's front and center throughout all of the song, and that's kind of the theme that he carries through with most of the album. He's on top of everything, and he's writing these really catchy hooks. Paranoid's got a real catchy hook in its chorus. And that's the same thing, sort of a formula that carries on throughout Beerbongs and Bentleys. The subject material here is kind of deep, but at the same time, it's sort of superficial and surface level stuff you'd expect from a high-rise celebrity or who has reached immense fame in a short amount of time. And I guess that's the kind of thing that you hear of in the social media age. So this is what Post goes on about within Paranoid. Give him the benefit of the doubt because it's his first album, but it's just surface level fame shit. And I mean, it's the stuff that you'd expect from Kanye West, and Kanye's been doing this for the past 2-3 albums. Already in the first song, I'm already starting to get annoyed with how how he articulates his words. The way he sings the melodies and the way he phrases his the way he phrases his words. It's as if he wants to make words that don't rhyme. So he's got stuff, a mind is running all day, cost me more than money, and I'm paying the price, yeah. The way he sings that, it sounds like it rhymes, but, it doesn't fucking rhyme. Woke up every morning, knew that I just had to get it, windows already tinted, you ain't looking in it. Dude. So the next song, Spoil My Night. It's got some brighter, thicker synth chords in there, and that kind of it's a nice feel coming up off of the first song, but already knowing what Post Malone sort of does. This is a nice bit of a refreshment there. Third song's Rich and Sad. It starts with those somber synths again, so it's the formula that we've come to expect. Also, you've got Post singing words that don't rhyme. He's not a wordsmith, obviously. The guy's no Tribe Called Quest or shit like that. The guy's ending his phrases, his stanzas with words that don't fucking rhyme, like carrots, cabinets, mavericks, stallions. And the pre-chorus is great though in this song. Post changes it up and he has a really nice falsetto. Even though the chorus is pretty basic, it's always catchy, and that's what Post can do, and he nails it to the T on all these songs. Lyrical content here isn't, you know, the deepest, and it's, I mean, you can hear the lyrics and you automatically know what he's saying, which I guess is a good point for him. Like, you know, it's not like I'm having to unpack some sort of Radiohead cryptic puzzle that's going to take me months. Rich and Sad, it's, you know, it's exactly what it is. He's rich, he's made millions off of his albums and the singles and all that shit, but he's sad because he's got a girl that doesn't like him now. He sings, he wishes that the money was enough for the girl to stick around, and that he's willing to drop it and give it all away for that girl. The next song, Zack and Codeine, it's just a fucking meme song. You know, obviously ripping off of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody from the Disney Channel. And I mean, it's playful and it's funny and it's gonna get him clicks and it's gonna get him listens and kids fucking screaming it back at him, so good on him. I can see that surface level shit, but it's already stuck in my head too, just thinking about the fucking song. It's a party song at the same time too, because I mean, like, they're taking codeine and shit like that, they're taking drugs, they're partying, they're having a good time, but it's got real minor synth melodies hanging underneath, so it's a bit depressing. Like, there's real, like, underlying depressing notes in those minor notes sinking in there. But, you know, it's a party song, but it's not a banger, and that's starting to confuse me a bit, especially with Post stuff, because he's always like, he's a party dude, he's drinking Bud Light, he's always like up for a rager, but he's writing this music that he thinks is for a party, but it's kind of sad. So, I mean, I don't really want to be at that party. Out of the two major singles that he released before the album, Rockstar and Psycho, I'd have to say Rockstar is my favourite, and that's the next song on the list. It's nothing special. I mean, it's no sort of anthem that you'd expect to hear from a rock star. If anything, it's like Zack and Codeine, where it's got that real minor flair to it still. And that was the same thing with Stoney, and that's obviously the sort of the trick that Post has got here. It's real sort of mellow, chilled out, minor beats and minor melodies, underneath the trap beat, and then he sings a real catchy hook over it. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like he's on an upper and a downer at the same time. That's what this music's like. Savage's feature is a pretty good highlight within the whole album itself, but specifically within Rockstar. His voice contrasts nicely against Post. He's got a bit more of a chill, deeper sort of croon to his rap, to his trap rap. And that contrasts nicely against Post's high vocals. Single Psycho is kind of bland for me. It didn't really do anything for me when it first was released, and now even on the album, sitting where it is, I don't really care for it. It's just a generic trap song, but just a generic Post song. There's nothing new to it. There's no sort of bubbly synths or, you know, real catchy hook. It is catchy, but out of everything on the album, I think it's like one of the least catchiest hooks and one of the weakest singles. But then after we get through the singles and, you know, the first sort of 9 or 10, even 11 songs, this fucking thing goes for over an hour, and it sits at, goes for over an hour, and it's at 18 songs. Honestly, it could have finished at 10 or 11. It would have been a tight 10, 11, 40-minute track listing. But instead, it sort of stays longer than it's welcome in this one. 18 tracks is a bit much, and that's where a lot of the filler content comes in. Ball for me, I like it. The synth is a bit more of a house beat, house music sort of style, and that sets itself apart. But then it sets itself too much apart from what Post has already established in the fucking 10 songs prior, and that's what, you know, there's some inconsistencies, and they really start to come out in the latter half of the album. Nicki Minaj's verse in it's pretty nice. I would have liked it if it was Cardi B, my girl. That would have been great to see, but yeah, oh well. Repetitiveness, and this Other Side, which has an alright chorus, everything's okay on it, but by now I'm a bit all tucked out by the repetitiveness of the whole album itself, and now I'm starting to, I mean, Beerbongs Bentleys is starting to show the cracks a bit. And then we come into Stay, the track Stay, and that's an acoustic song. So like already we've had 12 fucking trap, electronic driven trap songs, and now we've got this acoustic ballad that Post is playing on his guitar. It just, I mean, it's a nice song, I like it. I like when Post is playing some instruments and he's singing naturally, but it just seems completely out of place now that we've this deep into this album. I do like how in the song though that Post melody follows a simple little guitar riff as he's going up and down on the neck, and I think that's really effective. I mean, it's a minor bass song, it's very sort of depressing and heart-wrenching, and it's that kind of crap, you know, if MySpace was big back in the day, this thing would go off like a fucking hoot to be on everyone's profiles, and all the emo kids would be serenading their girlfriends to this one. But one of the latter tracks in the album, Same Bitches, yeah, I got that right. Same Bitches, it might be one of the hardest songs on the album. It just goes off, and it's a really fucking banger track. And it's just a shame that it's fucking hidden so far down. Like, most of the people listening to this album might not make it all the way to that, but Same Bitches is one of the highlights for me. It features G-Eazy and YG, and those two really play off each other very well. The two have some great chemistry on the track, and Post is kind of there. He kind of plays backseat a bit in his track, but those other two really go off, and Post is there accompanying them very well. Post's lack of experience sort of comes into play, especially with creating this album. I mean, this would have been a great closer track, but instead, I mean, Same Bitches is number 14. We've still got another 8. It's number 14. We've still got another 4 songs to go. So yeah, I think this is where it would have been a great closer track for the whole album. It goes off, it's hard, you know, it makes you want more, and then you want to replay the album again. It's just a shame that, you know, we've got another 4 filler tracks. 92 Explorer, Candy Paint, and Sugar Wraith. They're pretty much, they're just repetition again, and it's exactly what I've heard countless times already on the album. And by this time, I'm worn out. I mean, I didn't want to really listen to this album this much already, and I've had to for this one. So just to get to the end of 18 songs was a bit of a trek. The album instrumentally, I have to say, is a bit more dynamic than Stoney. Post's vocals change more often, and they fluctuate between some falsetto a lot more, and he can move into falsetto nicely, and I enjoy hearing the dynamic changes he has in his voice instead of just the auto-tune changes. When he does it naturally, it's a lot better. Verses still sort of tiptoe around the same melody, the same notes. I saw a girl play his verse melodies on piano on YouTube, and you can just see they just dance around the same fucking notes. So, I mean, he knows what he can do, he knows his limitations, but then again, he can move into falsetto nicely. So, I mean, he's not pushing himself, and, I mean, he doesn't really need to. Look at the fucking success this guy's had. Even though that the instrumentation is a bit more dynamic, it's just the same trap beat. The somber synths hanging underneath and the 4/4. You can sort of tell that Post writes this stuff on an acoustic guitar, and he just translates that over to, you know, his producer or his engineer, and they just, you know, play those chords and hang them on those synth notes, you know. They just hang them underneath. He might be writing C, G, and E, but that's all they're doing underneath. And you can hear that this is transitioned from something else, because some of it doesn't suit, and, you know, it's obvious when he starts to play acoustic on the album as well. But I mean, I can't knock the fact that Post can write a killer hook. The guy's choruses are fantastic, lyrically not, but the melodies he's writing are so fucking catchy, and I hate to say it because they get stuck in my head and have been stuck in my head all day from listening to it. That fucking Zach and Codeine is still stuck in my head, but the guy can write melodies real well. It's just the lyrical content, you know, it's not up to scratch. But I mean, if you're listening to trap music, you're not looking for, you know, a lyrical genius. You know, I'm still waiting for the Kendrick Lamar of trap to come out. I guess his ability to write these hooks comes from, and that's where his fame lies, because easy to remember lyrics, because, you know, sometimes they're so fucking dumb, but the melodies are really easy to sing back, and that's where this, you know, singability or whatever you want to call it, that comes through, and they'd be chanting this shit at him live. And I mean, it's got, you know, I'm not a Post Malone fan, and I'm fucking singing these in the car. There are moments in the album that sort of draw me out, because, you know, you can see the guy on YouTube being a real larrikin and enjoying himself.
Let's get weird, boy.
And but he's trying to be like a real hard motherfucker in these songs. Like he says, he talks about sleeping with an AK next to his bed because he's so paranoid. Dude, if a guy jumps you in your sleep, you're not pulling out a fucking AK to kill him. You're a fucking idiot. And he talks about putting pussy in a motherfucking body bag. Once again, dude, you're not about disrespecting women. I've seen you on YouTube. You're a kind-hearted gentleman. Don't be that guy. when you think about all the dumb lyrics, there is one that stands out. Ain't religious, only Christian when it's Dior. I mean, that's probably the most creative thing this guy's done on the entire album, lyrically. But like I said, he's been able to write some catchy hooks, and that's what keeps coming, and that's what has me coming back to listen to some of these songs. Overall, I think it is a bit overloaded. It feels even more like a mixtape than a proper album itself. It goes for over an hour, and I think that's way too long, especially when you're getting these fantastic albums from the likes of, Kanye and Pusha T. Only go for 20 minutes, 7 songs. I think that's what we're going to see more of, and that might even seep into the trap game a bit. And I hope it does, because 18 tracks and over an hour long is just too much for an album now. But, I mean, Post sings about excessiveness, and he's done it on the album. He's exceeded, the fucking recommended track length. Like I said before, majority of the album is a party album. But if this is what the teenagers listen to when they're drinking these butchered cocktails in their red plastic cups, then fuck that. When I look at the college movies of, the 90s and the 2000s, so you got like your Road Trips and your American Pies, they always had that sort of pop-punk, sort of melodic heaviness to it, and it got you sort of revved up, got you sort of going. The music of the college movies back in the day, that wasn't depressing. It was just a bit heavy. The beats are distant, and the bass is dirty and it's a bit thick, but the synth melodies are very minor, and it gets a bit depressing after a while. So is this what our, depressed Xanax poppin' perp drinking kids are listening to at these parties? Like, fucking sound old now. Look, at the end of the day, Beerbongs and Bentleys is better than Stoney, most definitely. It's more dynamic, it's catchier hooks, there's just more of it, and, he needs to learn to slow down a bit, I think. Post has been able to fine-tune his formula of writing a pop song where it's the trap beat, the somber melody underneath, and the catchy chorus. But he's sort of done a discredit to himself by doing that a bit too much on the album. So, like I said, if he just dialed it back to 10 or 11 songs, it would have been a fantastic album. Yeah, like I said, songwriting's not Post's strong point, but you don't really come to specifically Post Malone or trap music for great songwriting. People listen to Post for his choruses and to sing along to that music, and he's been able to do that. He's been able to craft those melodies. I've said it countless times, but the dude can write a catchy hook. Post hits a nerve with so many people, but for me, I feel like I need to turn off to fully enjoy the album. I need to take the critical listener out, but it's a bit hard, when you're always trying to listen critically, it's a bit hard to zone out. So for that reason, it's a bit hard for me to actually enjoy this album, because I need to concentrate on zoning out so much so I can just, disregard the shitty fucking lyrics or, the repetitive instrumentation, and I don't want to have to do that when I listen to an album. Like, a lot of the songs are catchy as fuck, but the verses repeat themselves so much between songs, the melodies, I love the catchy ass parts in the album, but after 10 or 11 songs, the whole thing starts to wear pretty thin, and I mean, that's Post. At the end of the day, Beerbongs and Bentleys is not worth the hype.